Hello everybody, my name is Alingruad, and I am starting a new series where I look at the fundamentals of ship design. You can take standard greebling advice and say, wow, empty spot, vent, wow, look at that guys, I'm not knocking that. My purpose today is going to provide you the reasons why you should add detail, and I want to make it easier for you to come up with said details. So, number one thing when designing a ship. To me, every good design needs a reason to exist. Even without any plan, simply putting rules in place makes things better, in my opinion. The right rules for the right ships. Simply put, armored ships should be armored. A colony ship should carry colonists. A mass production cruiser should be, well, mass producible. Sure, you want it to look nice, but you know what looks better than just simply looking nice? What looks better than simply a sleek design is uniqueness. It doesn't matter if your design is ugly. Take this grasshopper, for example. What am I even looking at? This is one of my favorite small grids. This is sort of its descendant. As you can see, I refined things a little bit, but because of the sheer jank of this thing, I love it more than I necessarily love this. And then this is a Pimp My Ride. Someone sent me their mining ship, and I redesigned it from the ground up. It's got all sorts of smarts in it. But you don't need to understand any of that. The main thing you need to understand is the rules. What's the rule for a drill ship? It needs to be able to carry its full capacity in cargo in atmosphere, preferably on alien planets. It needs to be fairly cheap to operate. It needs to be Space Engineers 101. It needs to be about the same width as your drills. And the additional rules for me is this thing needs to be easy to add on to. It needs a cargo drone, which I designed here, although I'm not very happy with it. It needs backup hydrogen for mostly atmospheric escape. And it overall looks very industrial because I reduced the amount of armor I was able to use. Pretty much, my armor is there to protect the cargo containers. This is very different to a battleship, which is going to be primarily a brick of armor and guns, because at the end of the day, that's what a battleship is, a brick with a bunch of guns on it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with building bricks, with building phallic shapes. Building generic shapes like that is simply a result of a problem. Thrust to weight. And usually, you want the most thrust that you can get. And so that's what happens. A lot of thrust to weight, and that's a completely fine design choice. But I will say, if you're going to do a phallic shape, lean into it. This thing is one of my earliest ships where I finally figured out my philosophy for building. This is the Moby Dick. It is a ship I designed to have sex with someone's mother. I don't remember the reason. But it's a very good example. My rules? It has to be smooth going in. So if you notice, there are as few sharp edges as you can really get. There's plenty of edges, but it won't slice your coocher up. And I had that in mind while building this thing. And, of course, because of the rules of it going inside someone, of course I had to add a modulation piston, or whatever you want to call this thing. This specifically is a blockade ship, so its job is to protect the line and to protect its crew. Versus this ship, whose job is to absolutely mutilate ships that it attacks on the cheap. It doesn't necessarily care about the crew. The crew surviving is really a bonus, and this cockpit happens to be fairly good at protecting the crew. But every section's modular, can be repaired easily, and I have printed this thing before. What were the rules for this ship? Well, this design had to follow. I could not break this keel at the end, no matter what. This is how I design boat ships. It has to have this keel, otherwise it isn't a boat. I don't know why. I don't design boats in real life, but, you know. Lots of walking area, like this smoking deck right here. It's got nice windows. And of course, we have the dining hall. These are all ships I've showcased before, but I've never really explained the philosophy behind it. As far as the design rule for this, the only hard and fast thing was the keel. Now, what were the rules for the colony ship? Well, for a lot of my cargo ships, I like to make these sort of extra large cargo container designs. This can all come out and can be loaded separately. It's a pain in the butt to do, and the piston over there likes to throw it into the void, but it's there. It needs to be able to drive on planet. It has a, for lack of better words, micro penis drill that can mine just a little bit of ice. It will take forever, but you can refuel. This thing is capable of self-sustaining. This thing is designed for very long voyages. And so what does that mean? As I just vent my entire thing here. Turn our flashlight off, see if I actually properly lit this place. UV lights. Because I want to grow plants and oxygen. These pipes go into the oxygen farms. A meeting room. You always need one of these. You got to check up on the crew. Everyone's got their own little computer. We open these up. We got some bathrooms, one of which is pressurized for some reason. But we have 4 bathrooms up here. We have a wooden desk. We have extra work areas on the sides. Because realistically, on a colony ship like this, there's a lot of logistics to contend to. This thing's job is to transport a lot of people really far over a long period of time. Now, this is not comfortable living. I mean, look at this. The hell. It has several refineries. Of course, a med bay. And cryo bays. Lots of cryo bays. Several on each side, actually. So, why did I make all these design decisions? Well, once again, its job is to transport a whole lot of people very far over a long period of time. And on the relatively cheap, in this case. It needs to be easy to repair. You can't exactly go to a shipyard if you're colonizing a new planet. It's got lots of upward thrust for landing with lots of cargo. The goal of this design philosophy isn't to just add more detail. It's to add detail that makes sense. It's to force you outside your comfort zone and design greater. Every man can design a battleship, but only you can design the ship within your head. Strive for a design process, not for the ship itself. A ship that is halfway done, but has greater thought put into it, is still better than a finished ship with only the basics checked. If my only rules are go, look, I designed the go ship. Why would I add more? Sure, I could add more thrusters and more directions, but hey, I designed a ship, didn't I? And what if I said go faster, but with a lot more pizzazz? The Racing Needle series is a fantastic example of abiding by rules. Each one of these has a large grid railgun, oriented the same way, mounted to the front. Think Redline. You want a big, powerful weapon to maybe knock the guy out in front of you. The only rules are there are no rules. Its second job is to have a spinning ring in the middle. 1, 2, 3. This one didn't have it. And the next rule is a free spinning rotor. This one was the first one, so it's not as free spinning, but it does spin. And it has these bits that move at the back. Spin, free spin. Fucking love this engine bay, by the way. This is done with subgrids. And this is stealing 3 of those subgrids. But, as you can see, those rules force me to design a certain way. My rules are needs aero, needs to barely be able to keep itself up in atmosphere, like it needs to be borderline undrivable. Needs to have most of its thrusters dedicated towards forward thrust, free spinning rotor, and a free spinning ring. Those are my rules. And because I forced myself into those rules, I don't just design 10 thrusters with a hydrogen tank. I design a technically less effective racer, but a unique racer. One that not everyone knows how to design. I will never be the best space engineer, and neither will you. There are people that have put tens of thousands of hours into this game, and we will never beat them. All we can do is strive to be unique, strive to be ourselves, and express our creativity. Anyways, that's not my emote button. None of these are my emote button. You guys have a wonderful day.